Hi, everyone. This week, you're going to be doing an activity that's going to prepare you for your dissertation. And I hope that that thought excites you, but I know it's also a little bit of a panicky feeling. Am I ready? The dissertation has been talked about, and you are quickly approaching that stage of your doctoral degree. And having worked with many dissertation students, there are some commonalities that we notice, not just at Southeastern, but with all dissertation students. We, your professors, have been through these same stages. And I tell students, chapter one is the proposal, and you just work so hard to get your research planned and to submit it to your chair and to your other committee members, and to look so carefully. Did I forget something? Do I have everything just right? Because I really want this research to go right the first time. And that comes from careful planning. And so the proposal really is a hard thing to write. And then you're following all of the stipulations of Southeastern, of your chair, of your committee members, putting together everything that you've learned about how to conduct research, how to design research, I should say, because you're designing it, you're thinking about how you will conduct it, you're planning. And we know that careful planning makes things easier in the end. And I think that that is biblical as well. So chapter one is that proposal. And when you're done with the proposal and you've defended your proposal and your committee says, go forth and research, then you're ready to start this big chapter two. And in chapter two, you're reviewing all the literature on your topic that has already been conducted. We call it a literature review or a review of the literature. And from our days in academia, we think about reviewing books and magazines, literature. That's what we think about. I think sometimes we should actually call chapter two a review of the research, because you're not telling me about what's in the books or what's even in your textbooks from your courses. You're not telling me what you've read in the past, but you are reviewing actual studies that have been done on your topic. And a lot of students get to chapter two and they're kind of excited because they've just defended their proposal. And then they get to chapter two and they're like, now what? And they spend time looking at a blank page on their computer, not knowing really how to get started with it. And so I just want to give you a little insight, and maybe this will motivate you as you are doing your reading and your activities this week. When you get to chapter two, I make all of my dissertation students make me just a rough outline, like not fancy, but just what is it that you need to cover from the research? Look at your purpose statement and look at your research questions from chapter one. And think, okay, well, what are the things that I said that I was going to research? Those are the items, those are the topics, the concepts that I need to go and research in the databases. And so just kind of a rough outline to get you started. It may change, but at least it's a guide. And so when you begin your chapter two and you begin reviewing those research studies, it's a little bit different sometimes than writing that students have done before. And so in seeing that in some of our dissertation students, we in the doctoral program have made a concerted effort to go back to the coursework and revise some of those assignments. They might have said that you were doing a literature review before in your courses, but it wasn't exactly like a literature review that you do for your dissertation. And so we want to be sure that you're prepared for that. When you're reviewing the research, you're going to tell me about a study. And you're of course not putting in your opinion, but you're telling me about that study, and you want to tell me the sample. Was it conducted with 50 teachers or 500 teachers? Were they elementary teachers or high school or college teachers? I need some specifics about that sample. And then as I read the study, I'm able to imagine where that study was being conducted and have a better idea of what was happening in that study because of the details that you provided. You're going to talk about the site where the study was conducted. Sometimes the site isn't divulged in research, but I might know that it was a school in Southwest Florida or an international school in China. So some of those details about the site are often given in research, and that would be important for you to share as you're reviewing that research. I want to know the purpose of the study. What was it that the researcher set out to explore or to discover or to see if there was a correlation? So give me that purpose statement. And maybe their research questions need to be reworded. They wanted to find out if a correlation existed between the amount of sleep that students were getting and their performance on a standardized test. I don't have to put the research question word for word. I can just kind of reword it. They were looking for a correlation between these two factors or these two items. When you are telling me about a study and you say, aha, a correlation existed, well, then I need to know some specific details. What was the strength of the correlation? What was the effect size? What was the significance level? I want some of those information pieces from the study that you're reviewing. Let me give you a little bit of a reasoning behind that, because I think that it's easier to write about research when you understand why you're telling me these items instead of just check, I did that, check, I told her that, check, I told her that. I can conduct a study with a new curriculum that the county is adopting. And I can say, wow, all of the third graders improved in reading comprehension when I used this new curriculum. And so I found that, and maybe it was significant. P was equal to or less than 0.05. So it was a significant finding. And everyone just is so excited. That reading curriculum made a difference, and it was significant. You reported the p-value. But as a researcher, I'm going to look very closely at it. I'm going to say, how much of a difference did it make? Oh, everybody's comprehension went up by 1 month. Like instead of being a third grade reader at the 5th month, after I implemented the new curriculum, they were a third grade reader at the 6th month. That's not much of an improvement. We paid how much for this new curriculum in our county? Wow, you only saw a small improvement. I don't think it was worth it. That growth could be attributed to the fact that the students are a month older. What do you mean that you saw an improvement and it was significant? I've got the numbers. It was significant. SPSS shows me that it was significant. So yes, I want you to report the significance. That's important. But I also want to know the actual effect of the curriculum. And the effect size is very important. I don't want to pay millions of dollars for a new reading comprehension curriculum if the effect is going to be so minute. I just don't think that's worth it. I don't think that was all that curriculum was cracked up to be. So when you are telling me about a study, there's a reason why you tell me if it was significant. There's a reason why I asked you to report the effect size. Now, going through studies, all of the studies do not give me all the information that I need. And sometimes as a student writing a literature review, that can be frustrating. I know in having an article published after I was Dr. Yates, after I had had my dissertation published in ProQuest, I'm sending an article for publication. And one of the editors wanted to know the effect size of a particular study. And it wasn't there. I could not find it in that study. And I went back to the original study, not just the article that was written about it. I searched everywhere. They didn't report the effect size, which is, I would look at it now years later and I would say, that's highly suspect. Like, why didn't they give me the effect size? Was it because it was such a tiny effect that they didn't want anybody to know? Now, I don't know. I'm just saying. But what I did in that particular case was I just actually got out my notes from quant class on how to calculate the effect size and wrote the formula out. You know, it's one of these long formulas. I wrote out the formula, filled in the information, and calculated the effect size and turned that into the editor. I had Dr. Gallery double check me to make sure that I was doing all my figuring correctly. But, you know, the editor was bound to determine that we needed an effect size, which so he should be, but it was not reported in the article. There's not this set way of sharing the information from a study. You share the information but it has your own little bit of a writing style to it, although we know as doctoral writers, we're not allowed to have that much style. But work on the flow as you tell me about the study. It should be enjoyable to read. It should be interesting to read. Remember, I have to read lots of these. And give me the important information and follow APA guidelines. So in your APA manual, you'll see that there are specific guidelines for, reporting there was an effect, and then in parentheses putting the p-value. P was equal to 0.05 and the P needs to be italicized. And so writing is very complicated. It's complicated when you're a fourth grader. It's complicated when you're in high school. It's complicated in undergrad. It's just a complicated thing that we ask our brains and our muscles and our minds to do. But writing at the doctoral level takes it to a whole nother level. And I'm very conscious of that. And that's why I wanted to send you this little video, just to let you know that, first of all, you're reviewing the research, you're reviewing studies. And when you do so, there are certain things that I do want you to share about that research. And then I do want you to do it in a way that flows, in a way that is interesting, in a way that is very specific with its details, so that my brain can kind of fill in all the blanks. And I also want you to write it in a way that follows APA guidelines. So there's a lot of things to remember, and that's why we need to practice it. And so this week we're having a little practice section. If you look at your syllabus or your information on MyFire and pretend that you are practicing for your dissertation, and maybe that will inspire you a little bit. And so perhaps just for this week's assignment, you could pretend that you're doing a dissertation on mentoring. I mean, it's possible. And so use the articles from this week to give me a brief literature review on mentoring. Nothing like you would actually do for your dissertation, because that would take weeks and weeks. But tell me the purpose of the study, describe the participants, give me some of the important information about the findings of that study and possibly even the implications of that study. And report mean scores or standard deviation, effect size, p-values as you see them. I've included a couple of paragraphs from Brianna Dinowitz's dissertation. Brianna likes to be called B. So B. Dinowitz wrote a dissertation I think it was published in 2020. Go back and look at the sample. I just took a few paragraphs from her dissertation because B did a wonderful job telling about other studies. And so I just went into her chapter 2 and took a little section for you to look at as an example. Yours will not look exactly like B's. No one looks the same as someone else's, but at least you have a little sample there to go by. So I hope that helps you for this week as you endeavor to tell me about the research. If you have any questions, know that I'm only a phone call or a text or an email away. Thanks.